There's a fascinating paradox that Carl Jung understood deeply. Sometimes, the most revealing thing about a person is what they choose not to reveal. In a world obsessed with self-disclosure, where everyone is broadcasting their lives in exhaustive detail, the people who show nothing stand out. And here's what's remarkable: their silence, their restraint, their choice to remain hidden actually tells you more about who they are than 1,000 posts ever could. The decision to show nothing isn't neutral or empty. It's a powerful statement, a profound choice that reveals character, values, psychological sophistication, and depth. So what does it mean when someone shows nothing? What does this restraint reveal about their inner world? And what can Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist who spent his life exploring what lies beneath the surface, teach us about why showing nothing actually shows everything? To understand this paradox, we need to start with one of Jung's fundamental insights: the relationship between the visible and the invisible, between what's shown and what's hidden. Jung believed that the most important aspects of human psychology exist in the invisible realm, in the unconscious depths that can't be directly observed or easily expressed. The conscious ego, the part of ourselves we present to the world, is just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath it lies vast unconscious territory containing complexes, archetypes, shadow material, and the self, the organizing center of the entire psyche. When someone chooses to show nothing, they're implicitly acknowledging this structure. They're saying, through their silence, that the visible surface isn't what matters most, that the real substance of who they are exists in depths that can't be adequately displayed. This awareness itself is revealing. It shows psychological sophistication, an understanding that human beings are primarily invisible creatures whose essence can't be captured in posts and images. People who show nothing have grasped something that constant sharers haven't: that the attempt to make everything visible is fundamentally misguided because the most important things can't be shown. There's also something profound being revealed through what Jung called the persona, and the choice not to construct one. Remember, the persona is the social mask we wear, the public face we present to navigate society. Everyone has some degree of persona. It's necessary for social functioning. But social media has created an environment where people construct elaborate, carefully maintained personas that become almost entirely separate from their authentic selves. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing that they've chosen not to participate in this persona construction. This choice tells you several things about them. First, they're not interested in managing others' perceptions. They're comfortable with being unknown, with letting people form whatever impressions they will without trying to control those impressions. This comfort with being misunderstood or not understood at all reveals remarkable psychological security. Second, by not constructing a public persona, they're protecting their connection to their authentic self. They're prioritizing internal authenticity over external image, which reveals where their values lie. Third, their refusal to perform reveals independence from the collective need for validation. They don't need recognition, approval, or attention from the crowd. This independence is itself deeply revealing of psychological maturity and self-sufficiency. Let's also consider what Jung called psychological energy and what the choice to show nothing reveals about energy management. Jung believed that psychic energy is finite and precious, and that how you spend this energy is one of the most telling things about you. People who constantly share, post, and broadcast are spending enormous amounts of psychic energy on external performance, on managing their image, on maintaining their digital presence. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing through this absence that they've made a different calculation about energy. They're conserving their psychic energy for other purposes, for internal development, for deep work, for meaningful relationships, for creative pursuits, for simply living without the drain of constant performance. This choice reveals priorities. It shows that they value depth over breadth, quality over quantity, substance over appearance. It shows that they understand something about the economics of attention and energy that constant performers have missed, that you can't do deep work while doing shallow performance, that you have to choose. Their choice to show nothing is actually showing you their priorities, their understanding of what matters, their commitment to investing their finite energy wisely rather than scattering it across endless shallow interactions. There's also something being revealed about relationship to the collective and the need for belonging. Jung understood that human beings have a deep instinct for belonging, for being part of the group, for fitting in with the collective. Social media exploits this instinct powerfully. The pressure to share, to be visible, to participate, comes from this deep need to belong, to be part of the digital tribe. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing that they've transcended or at least significantly loosened this collective pool. They're comfortable existing outside the main current of collective behavior. They're willing to be different, to stand apart, to not participate in what everyone else is doing. This willingness reveals psychological independence, strength of character, and the kind of individualization that Jung considered essential for psychological maturity. They're not letting collective pressure determine their behavior. They're making choices based on their own values and needs, even when those choices make them outliers. This independence, revealed through their absence from the performative collective, tells you more about their character than any carefully curated feed could. Jung also spoke about what he called consciousness, not just awareness, but the hard-won ability to understand yourself, your motivations, your patterns. When someone shows nothing, they're often revealing a high degree of consciousness about the nature of social media and its effects. They understand that social media is designed to be addictive, that it exploits psychological vulnerabilities, that it encourages shallow connection over deep relationship, that it rewards performance over authenticity. This understanding, revealed through their choice to abstain, shows that they're awake to forces that others remain unconscious of. They're not just going along with what everyone else is doing. They've examined it, understood its mechanisms, recognized its costs, and made a conscious choice to opt out. This consciousness is profoundly revealing. It shows critical thinking, psychological awareness, and the capacity to resist powerful collective forces. People who show nothing have seen through the illusion that visibility equals value and that seeing through reveals depth of understanding. There's also something being revealed about the relationship with time and presence. Jung understood that genuine psychological work, meaningful experiences, and authentic living happen in the present moment, in direct engagement with reality, rather than in the mediated realm of representation and performance. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing that they've chosen presence over documentation, direct experience over mediated representation. They're living their life rather than recording it. This choice reveals a fundamental orientation toward reality. They value the actual experience more than the social currency that documenting it might generate. They'd rather fully inhabit a moment than step outside it to capture it for others. This reveals where their attention is focused, on the thing itself, rather than on how the thing appears to others. It shows a depth of engagement with life that constant documentation prevents. When you're always thinking about how to present your experience, you can't fully be in the experience. People who show nothing have chosen full presence, and that choice reveals their priorities and their understanding of what makes life meaningful. Let's also consider what showing nothing reveals about relationship to vulnerability and authenticity. Brené Brown and others have popularized the idea that vulnerability is courage, that sharing your struggles is brave. And there's truth in that. In certain contexts, But Jung understood something more nuanced. He recognized that there's a difference between genuine vulnerability, sharing your authentic self with people who've earned that trust, and performed vulnerability, packaging your pain as content for public consumption. When someone shows nothing, they might actually be protecting genuine vulnerability rather than avoiding it. They're revealing that they understand the difference between real intimacy and its public performance. They're saving their authentic vulnerability for relationships that can actually hold it, for people who've earned the right to know their depths. This discretion reveals wisdom about relationships. Understanding that intimacy isn't created through public disclosure, but through private trust built over time. Their silence about their struggles doesn't mean they're not vulnerable. It means they're vulnerable in the right contexts, with the right people, in ways that create genuine connection rather than shallow sympathy from strangers. This sophisticated understanding of vulnerability and intimacy is deeply revealing of emotional intelligence and relational maturity. There's also something profound being revealed about the relationship with the shadow. Jung's concept of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we don't want to acknowledge, is crucial here. Everyone has shadow material, aspects of themselves they're ashamed of or want to hide. Social media encourages what you might call shadow denial, presenting only your positive qualities while suppressing anything negative. People carefully curate their feeds to show their best selves, hiding their shadow completely. When someone shows nothing, they're taking a different approach to the shadow. They're not denying it by presenting only positives. They're simply not presenting anything. This reveals a certain honesty. They're not pretending to be better than they are. They're not performing virtue or success while hiding struggle. They're acknowledging, through their silence, that they're complex human beings with light and shadow, and that the shadow can't be authentically integrated while performing for an audience. Their choice to show nothing might actually reveal more shadow integration than the carefully positive presentations of constant sharers. They're comfortable with their whole selves, shadows included, and they don't feel the need to prove their goodness or success to others. This comfort with complexity, revealed through restraint, shows psychological wholeness that performance prevents. Jung also understood something about what he called the introvert's subjective reality and how it relates to sharing. For introverts, Jung explained, internal subjective experience is primary. The inner world of thoughts, feelings, and reflections has its own validity that doesn't depend on external confirmation. When someone shows nothing, they're often revealing an introverted orientation where internal experience is self-validating. They don't need to externalize their experiences to make them real or valuable. A profound thought is complete in itself, without needing to be posted. A meaningful experience is fully real without being shared. This self-validating internal orientation reveals psychological independence and the kind of rich inner life that Jung considered essential for depth. They're not looking outward for confirmation that their life matters. They can confirm it from within. This internal authority, revealed through their lack of external seeking, shows remarkable psychological maturity. There's also something being revealed about relationship to meaning and purpose. Jung believed that genuine meaning comes from within, from connection with what he called the self, not from external validation or social recognition. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing that their sense of meaning and purpose isn't dependent on being seen or recognized. They're not deriving their sense of significance from likes, shares, or followers. This reveals that they've found meaning in deeper sources in their work, their relationships, their inner development, their connection to something larger than themselves. The fact that they can sustain themselves without external validation shows that they've developed what Jung considered the ultimate psychological achievement: connection with the self, the deep center that provides meaning independent of ego gratification. Their absence from the performance economy reveals that they're operating from a different economy altogether, one based on internal values rather than external metrics. Let's also consider what showing nothing reveals about relationship to truth versus image. Jung was deeply concerned with truth, with seeing things as they actually are, rather than as we wish them to be or as they appear. Social media is fundamentally about image management, about crafting how you appear, rather than revealing how you are. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing a preference for truth over image. They'd rather be authentic in private than impressive in public. They'd rather be honestly unknown than falsely recognized. This commitment to truth, revealed through their refusal to engage in image management, shows integrity and the kind of honesty with oneself that Jung considered foundational for psychological health. They're not lying to themselves about who they are by creating a false image for others. They're staying grounded in reality, even if that reality remains invisible to most people. There's also something profound being revealed about the relationship with time and legacy. Jung spoke about the importance of living according to your own timeline, not according to collective pressures or social expectations. When someone shows nothing in the present moment, they're revealing a different relationship with time. They're not concerned with immediate recognition or real-time validation. They might be working on things that will matter in the long term, but don't make for good social media content now. They might be developing slowly, learning deeply, building something substantial that requires years of invisible work before it becomes visible. This long-term orientation, revealed through present invisibility, shows patience, discipline, and understanding that the most valuable things often develop slowly and invisibly before they emerge. Their choice to show nothing now reveals confidence that their value isn't dependent on constant visibility, that what they're building will speak for itself eventually, or that it doesn't need to speak at all because its value isn't dependent on external recognition. Jung also understood something crucial about what he called psychological projection and how showing nothing relates to it. Projection is the unconscious process of seeing your own qualities in others, attributing to them what actually exists in yourself. When you're highly visible on social media, you become a screen for countless projections. People don't see you as you are. They see their own unconscious material reflected back. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing an awareness of this projection dynamic and a choice to avoid it. They understand that visibility doesn't equal being truly seen, that in fact high visibility often means being profoundly misunderstood as people project onto you. Their choice to remain invisible reveals wisdom about the nature of perception and relationship. They'd rather be genuinely known by a few than projected onto by many. This understanding, revealed through absence, shows psychological sophistication about how human perception actually works. There's also something being revealed about relationship to consumption and the attention economy. Jung lived before social media, but he understood the dangers of what he called collective possession, being swept up in mass movements and losing individual consciousness. Social media has created an attention economy where your attention is the product being sold, where platforms profit from keeping you engaged and consuming. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing that they've opted out of this economy entirely. They're not consuming endless content, and they're not producing content for others to consume. This opt-out reveals consciousness about systems of exploitation that others remain unconscious within. They understand that participation makes them both product and consumer in a system that doesn't serve their well-being. Their absence reveals awareness, resistance, and the courage to live differently than the collective norm, even when that means being invisible. Let's also consider what showing nothing reveals about relationship to creativity and originality. Jung believed that genuine creativity emerges from the unconscious, from depths that require protection and incubation. When someone shows nothing, they're often revealing that they're engaged in genuine creative work rather than the performance of creativity. Real creative work is messy, uncertain, full of false starts and failures. It can't be adequately documented while it's happening without disrupting the process. People who show nothing might be deeply engaged in creative work that requires privacy and protection. Their invisibility reveals that they're prioritizing the work itself over the performance of working, the genuine creative process over the appearance of being creative. This priority, revealed through restraint, shows understanding that real creation requires conditions that visibility destroys. There's also something profound being revealed about humility and ego. Jung spoke about the dangers of ego inflation, the ego mistaking itself for the whole personality and becoming grandiose. Social media encourages ego inflation dramatically. The constant feedback, the metrics, the followers, all feed the ego's sense of importance. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing a different relationship with ego. They're not feeding it with external validation. They're keeping it properly sized by not exposing it to the inflating effects of public attention. This restraint reveals humility, not in the sense of thinking poorly of yourself, but in the sense of having an accurate, grounded sense of your actual size and significance. Their choice to remain invisible reveals that they haven't mistaken themselves for someone whose every thought and action deserves public attention. This accurate self-assessment, revealed through absence, shows the kind of humility that Jung considered essential for psychological health. Jung also understood something about what he called the compensatory function of the psyche and how it relates to visibility. Jung observed that the psyche naturally compensates for one-sided attitudes. If you're too focused on external reality, your dreams will pull you inward. If you're too inflated, your unconscious will bring deflating material. In a culture obsessed with visibility, performance, and constant sharing, the compensatory response is withdrawal, privacy, and silence. When someone shows nothing, they might be revealing that they're serving a compensatory function, not just for themselves, but for the collective. They're balancing the culture's extreme extroversion with their introversion, its obsession with surface with their depth, its constant noise with their silence. This compensatory stance, revealed through their absence, shows that they're psychologically attuned to what the collective needs, even if the collective doesn't recognize it. They're providing balance simply by being different, by showing nothing in a world that shows everything. There's also something being revealed about relationship to suffering and its meaning. Jung believed that suffering is an inevitable and potentially transformative part of human existence. But meaningful suffering happens privately, in the dark nights of the soul, when you're alone with your pain and the questions it raises. Social media has created a culture where even suffering is performed, documented, turned into inspirational content. When someone shows nothing, including their suffering, they're revealing that they understand suffering's sacred, private nature. They're not turning their pain into content because they respect its transformative potential, which requires privacy to fully manifest. Their silence about struggle reveals that they're actually engaged with it deeply, rather than avoiding it through performance. They're letting suffering do its psychological work, which can only happen away from public view. This respect for suffering's private nature, revealed through restraint, shows psychological and spiritual maturity. Let's also consider what showing nothing reveals about death awareness and existential understanding. Jung spoke often about the importance of confronting mortality, understanding that life is finite and precious. This awareness changes how you live. When someone shows nothing, they might be revealing a deep awareness of life's brevity and preciousness. They don't want to waste their finite time curating images and managing perceptions. They want to actually live, to be present for the limited time they have. This choice reveals existential clarity. They understand that at the end of life, what matters isn't how many followers you had or how polished your feed was, but whether you actually lived, loved, created, and grew. Their absence from the performance economy reveals that they're oriented toward what Jung would call the eternal, the dimensions of human experience that have lasting significance rather than temporary social currency. There's also something profound being revealed about trust and the need for control. Jung understood that psychological health involves tolerating uncertainty and relinquishing the illusion of control. Social media offers a tempting illusion of control over your image, your reputation, your narrative. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing a willingness to relinquish this control. They trust that they can exist without managing every perception, that their worth isn't dependent on controlled presentation. This trust, revealed through their lack of control-seeking behavior, shows psychological security and the kind of faith in life that Jung considered essential for navigating existence without becoming rigid or defended. Jung also spoke about what he called the individuation process and its relationship to differentiation from the collective. Individuation requires discovering what makes you uniquely yourself, rather than just a copy of collective patterns. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing that they're engaged in this differentiation process. By refusing to participate in the collective performance, they're creating space to discover their own values, their own path, their own authentic way of being that doesn't conform to social norms. This differentiation, revealed through their absence from the digital collective, shows that they're becoming individuals in the truest sense, rather than remaining merely members of the mass. Their invisibility is actually the space where their unique individuality can emerge without being shaped by collective pressure. There's also something being revealed about relationship to the sacred and profane. Jung understood that certain experiences, certain aspects of life, are sacred and require protection from profanation. When someone shows nothing, they're often revealing a sense of what's sacred and a commitment to protecting it. Their relationships might be sacred, not to be displayed for public consumption. Their creative work might be sacred, requiring privacy to develop. Their inner life might be sacred, too precious to be commodified as content. This protection of the sacred, revealed through restraint, shows reverence and depth of values. They understand that not everything should be shared, that some things lose their power when exposed, that the sacred requires boundaries between itself and the profane world. Their fortress of privacy reveals a spiritual sensibility that recognizes different orders of reality and respects the boundaries between them. Let's also consider what showing nothing reveals about psychological boundaries and sense of self. Jung believed that healthy individuals have clear psychological boundaries, knowing where they end and others begin. Social media blurs these boundaries dramatically, creating fusion between self and audience, between private experience and public performance. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing that they've maintained clear boundaries. They know what's theirs and what's not. They're not confused about where their self ends and the collective begins. This boundary clarity, revealed through their protective stance, shows psychological health and the kind of differentiation that Jung considered essential for avoiding what he called participation mystique, unconscious merger with others. Their clear boundaries, maintained through privacy, reveal a strong sense of self that doesn't need constant external definition. There's also something profound being revealed about relationship to power and influence. Jung understood that there are different kinds of power, the obvious power of dominance and control, but also the subtle power of influence through presence, authenticity, and depth. Social media offers a particular kind of power, influence through visibility, follower counts, and reach. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing that they're not interested in this kind of power. They're not seeking influence through visibility. This absence of power-seeking reveals either that they've found different sources of power, internal authority, genuine expertise, deep relationships, or that they've transcended the need for power altogether, finding meaning in ways that don't require influence over others. Either way, their lack of seeking reveals something about their relationship to power that's more mature than the obvious status-seeking of public performers. Jung also understood something about what he called the transcendent function, the psyche's capacity to generate new possibilities by holding the tension between opposites. In the opposition between showing everything and showing nothing, there's creative tension. When someone shows nothing, they're holding one pole of this opposition, and that holding creates possibilities. They're demonstrating that you can live fully without documentation, that you can matter without visibility, that you can exist authentically without performance. This demonstration, this living proof that another way is possible, reveals courage and the kind of creative stance that Jung believed generates new cultural possibilities. Their absence isn't just personal choice, it's cultural contribution, showing others that the dominant mode isn't the only option. There's also something being revealed about relationship to change and growth. Jung believed that genuine psychological growth requires periods of withdrawal, what he called going into the cave or descending into the underworld. Growth happens in darkness, in privacy, away from observation. When someone shows nothing, they're revealing that they're engaged in this kind of deep growth. They're not displaying their process because the process itself requires privacy. The caterpillar doesn't invite observers into the cocoon. Transformation happens in sealed spaces. Their invisibility reveals that they're actually changing, actually growing, actually transforming in ways that constant documentation would prevent. This commitment to genuine growth over the performance of growth reveals seriousness about development and understanding that real change can't be adequately captured or shared while it's happening. Let's also consider what showing nothing reveals about relationship to mystery and the unknown. Jung was fascinated by mystery, by the unknown dimensions of human experience that exceed rational understanding. When someone shows nothing, they're preserving mystery, both their own mystery to others and the mystery of life itself. By not explaining everything, documenting everything, making everything visible and knowable, they're acknowledging that human existence has dimensions that should remain mysterious. This preservation of mystery reveals depth of understanding. They know that not everything should be known, that mystery has value, that some things are more powerful for remaining hidden. Their choice to remain unknown reveals respect for the unknown and comfort with not having everything explained and categorized. There's also something profound being revealed about self-sufficiency and independence. Jung spoke about the importance of developing internal sources of validation, authority, and meaning, rather than being dependent on external sources. When someone shows nothing, they're demonstrating remarkable self-sufficiency. They're not dependent on external validation to confirm their worth. They're not seeking others' approval to justify their choices. They're not looking to the crowd for direction about how to live. This self-sufficiency, revealed through their independence from social validation, shows psychological maturity and the kind of internal authority that Jung considered the mark of individuated persons. They found their center within themselves rather than in the collective's opinion. Finally, there's something being revealed about wisdom and the understanding that comes from experience. Jung believed that wisdom emerges not from accumulating information, but from integrating experience, from achieving depth of understanding rather than breadth of knowledge. When someone shows nothing, they're often revealing that they're pursuing wisdom rather than appearing informed. They're living deeply rather than performing broadly. They're integrating their experiences privately rather than broadcasting them publicly. This pursuit of wisdom revealed through their absence from the performance economy, shows maturity and understanding that what matters isn't how much you know or how impressive you appear, but how deeply you've understood and how fully you've lived. Their silence speaks volumes about their priorities. In the end, showing nothing reveals everything because the choice itself is so telling. It reveals values, priorities, psychological sophistication, independence, depth, wisdom, and understanding that constant sharing obscures. Carl Jung would recognize people who show nothing, not as absent or invisible, but as deeply present in ways that visibility prevents, living from depths that performance destroys, becoming whole in privacy that public life fragments. Their nothing is actually everything, the invisible foundation of an examined life lived according to internal values rather than external pressures. The blank space where their posts would be is actually a window into their character, and what it reveals is profound. Someone who understands that the most important things can't be shown, that genuine existence doesn't require documentation, and that sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is choosing to remain silent while everyone else performs.